Welcome to my channel. Today I will be reading from a subreddit, so let's jump into it. The doll spoke. This is a true story. I was a babysitter for a family in my neighborhood when I was around 16 years old. I had been watching their 3 kids for years. They were all grown up and out of the house now, and I was really good friends with the parents. They would often invite me over to hang out with them as a friend, not just a babysitter. All of this to say that I was very comfortable in this house. One night they invited me over to watch a movie and have dinner together, just like we had done many times before. The mum got food poisoning the night before and had asked if I could come over and stay at the house just in case she needed anything or threw up in the middle of the night. I agreed. It was no big deal. I've stayed over at their house many times before. At this point, the kids are 18, 16 and 14, so they didn't need a babysitter per se, but they had exams coming up, so their parents wanted them to study instead of partying. I had to work on a school project, so I said I'd come over and do it with the 14-year-old. The youngest was away at his girlfriend's house. As I walked in the front door, I saw something strange on the kitchen counter. It looked like an iPad attached to a tripod with a microphone in front of it. I asked about it, and the mother told me that it was a special gift she had bought for the children. It was a talking doll. She explained that it would record the children talking to it and then play it back later, like a little joke they could play on each other. They had only opened it that day because the 18-year-old was leaving for college soon, and they wanted to give it to him before he left. I thought it was kind of silly, but whatever. After I had talked with the mum about her day, she headed to bed. She was still feeling sick. I sat down to talk with the kids while they did their homework. I told them about my life in college and they told me about their week. Then they went to their rooms to get ready for bed. I was finishing up my project and I had forgotten about the doll until I heard my name being called. I assumed it was one of the kids playing a prank on me. I said, "Hello," but nobody answered. I figured maybe one of them was messing with me through the doll. I turned it off and headed to bed. In the morning, the mum came into my room and woke me up. She was feeling better. I told her about what happened last night, and she said that it must have been the doll. She hadn't even plugged it in. I told her I unplugged it already. She asked me where I put it, so we went to the kitchen to look. We found the doll sitting on the counter, and there was a cord running across the floor. I don't remember seeing it last night. We went to plug it in to listen to the recording, and sure enough, it had been plugged in all night. I didn't see it because it was wrapped around the baseboard. I felt stupid for not thinking of this sooner. She listened to the recording and it was absolutely nothing. It was just static. She unplugged it and laughed it off as a crazy babysitter. That was the end of it. A few weeks later, I was hanging out with the family again, and the mum showed me something interesting she had found. It was a doll that looked exactly like the other one, except it didn't have a battery pack or a way to plug it in. She said that she found it in the attic. It looked brand new, and it was identical to the other doll except without a battery pack. She had no idea how it got there because the kids had never played with that doll before. The creepy part was that the eyes on both dolls were exactly the same shade of blue as my eyes. I freaked out and ran to the bathroom. I stared at my eyes in the mirror and I couldn't help but think that they did look a bit similar to those dolls. After I calmed down, I admitted that I probably had imagined it and that it probably didn't mean anything. I can't remember if I was ever able to go over there again after that incident. I think I was too scared. Years later, the mother contacted me on Facebook. She said that she wanted to show me something. She posted a picture of the doll. Even though it was several years later, it still looked brand new. But now it was missing its head. She said that the kids had taken it apart and were playing with it in the backyard. They didn't know where the head had gone, but they had thrown the rest of it away. I asked her if I could come over and see it, but she said that she was afraid that I would freak out and leave without saying goodbye. I pressed her for more details, but she wouldn't tell me anything. She just kept telling me that she thought I should come see it for myself. I messaged her back and forth for a while, but eventually she stopped responding. I was getting worried that something had happened to her, so I decided to drive over to their house to check on her. When I arrived, I noticed that the lawn was overgrown and the house looked abandoned. The windows were boarded up and the porch light was covered with a plastic bag. I knocked on the door and waited. I knocked again and yelled, "Hello?" Nobody answered. I walked around the side of the house to see if there was another way in, but every window I looked through was boarded up. I checked the mailbox and found a forwarding address. I drove over there and dropped off some food for the family, but nobody was home. I left the food on the porch and came back a few days later. The food was still there. I tried calling the number, but it was disconnected. I knew I shouldn't pry, but I was worried about their safety, so I let myself in through the back door. The house was dark and dusty. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. I couldn't find anyone here, but I did find a pile of old photo albums in the living room. I flipped through the photos, hoping to find something familiar. Most of them were from the first few years of my friendship with the family. It was hard to believe that this was the same house. There were no signs of forced entry, and none of the rooms looked disturbed. It was almost like they had vanished into thin air. I was so confused, so I decided to ask my friends if they had heard anything. One of my friends knew the family. He said that he hadn't seen them in a while, and he was worried about them too. We decided to contact their friends and family, but nobody had heard from them in years. It's been over 10 years since I last saw the family, but sometimes I think about them and wonder what happened. Maybe they moved away and changed their phone number, but it seems unlikely that their entire family would move without telling anybody. Where are they now? That was The Doll Spoke. If you like scary stories, check out the playlist. Also, if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon. You can find the link to that down below. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.